hopefully going to be that, one-stop podcast where they know they're going to come on and hear real information, not just the fluffy surface chit-chat. It's actual real life scenarios and real life feelings and stories and experiences and solutions as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lessons Podcast. We are really excited to be here today and just want to say a massive thank you for all of the feedback on our last week's episode. So awesome reading messages and comments, just hearing how much you get out of learning a new lesson each week. It's so nice, isn't it?
Beautiful. Yep.
We have another extraordinary guest today that I have had the pleasure of actually meeting. We actually spoke on social media quite a bit and I've admired her from afar. And then when I got to meet her, I was just like, I remember saying to Nat, that girl is just friggin' amazing. And I even said it in a voice message this morning. I was like, I don't even know how to introduce you. You're just bloody awesome. Like literally, you make me want to be a better person. So we're going to jump straight in. Our guest today, her name is Charli Adams. Charli Adams was born with dwarfism and has always been super bubbly and vibrant, but spent a lot of her younger years wondering if she'd ever truly be happy. Struggling with the mental battle that being physically different would mean she would never be accepted. She managed to slowly transform her own self-talk and self-confidence and finally believe that she was enough. Charli is a representative of the 2013 Australian World Dwarf Games team and brought home a gold and a bronze medal, which was huge after always being last in every sport that she'd ever tried. She's a mother of two beautiful daughters, also both born with dwarfism, married and shares her life on social media, which they aim to inspire and spread love and acceptance of any differences. As well, remind women that their greatest power is their own self-talk. Welcome, Charli. We're so excited to have you.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve and Ashy. It's so surreal actually here looking at you both and getting ready to have a chat. And I'm really excited and really honoured to be a part of such an awesome project that you guys are running. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I know you just have so many incredible lessons and incredible messages to share. So we are so honoured to have you today. We actually had the pleasure of meeting and being on a panel a couple of weeks ago, which was awesome. But I felt like we just got off that saying, oh my God, we wanted to talk so much more.
100%. It was only the second time I've ever done a panel, and it was so exciting, and I think everybody was really engaged with us, and it was awesome. But it's the old just not enough time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that happens, and I think the conversations that we did get to have with people were really, really informative and fruitful, and I think everyone took a fair bit away from it.
And that's what we're wanting today. So let's just dive straight into it in a quick 30 to 60 seconds. Tell us who Charli is.
Oh, goodness. Well, look, I think just, I guess, rehashing a little bit of what you just mentioned. I'm a mum first and foremost, and I say that loud and proud. Not a lot of people, but sometimes when you say I'm a mum, people will say, yes, you're a mum, but what do you actually do?
Yeah.
Thinking that, people get caught up defining themselves as a mum, but I love being a mum to my kids. It is the best thing. It's so exciting being able to share those early formative years with your children, and really be able to have an impact and a difference on them and their life, and just kids remind you of the joy in the small things that as adults it's so easy to forget and to slip away from, and to not actually take time in that. And that for me is where so much happiness comes from, is seeing that and being reminded that the small things are the beautiful things. I've got two little girls. I am married to my husband, Cullen. We've been married for a couple of years now and together for a couple more. And I work 3 days a week for a communications company, which I've done that for about 10 years now. So it's not really part of the part of me that I really share, but it's what I do. It's a good job. I enjoy it. And I share my story and our life on social media, and I really enjoy doing that because I think it's so awesome to have a diverse feed. I think anybody who gets on social media, you can get caught up following the same kind of repertoire of people, I suppose. And so I like to try and jump in there and say, hey, do you follow somebody with a disability, or somebody that's physically different, or things, and it's really exciting to be able to engage with people.
So Charli, tell us generally, how do people react to you when you first meet them?
So two different, and it depends on probably the person, but generally people that are really curious, and it actually took me a long time to accept that curiosity was a good thing. But most people want to, say hello first and foremost, and then really like kind of figure out, we can see that you're different, but you're here with your kids, or you're doing your grocery shopping, or you're driving your car. What's with that? Like, how do you do all that? People, sometimes there's an assumption that I might be down on myself because I am obviously physically different. I'm 4'2", I'm 127 centimeters. So standing in a crowd, I'm like noticeable, and people kind of, are drawn to that in either a good way or a bad way. So a lot of reactions are, it's so awesome that you're out and about and you're living your life. And first that used to offend me a lot, because I'm like, why wouldn't I be? But in the end, I guess it can provide people with a lot of perspective. And, not necessarily to say that, your problems aren't real. Look at what I'm doing. It's not about that at all. But it's about like, everyone's got their own little thing going on. So I think that perspective is really healthy, I suppose. And it's good to see different people and different things that are going on in people's lives out and about. But yeah, generally it's curiosity, and curiosity is great. I love it. The worst thing that can happen for me is if we're at a park or a playground and I'm with my kids and there's other kids and they're tugging at their mum, and they're like, "Mum, look at that little lady," because they know that I'm not a kid. I've got a phone and a wallet and I'm there with my children, but I am so different to their own mums, and it's really, really confusing. And I love it when the mum then comes up, or the dad, whoever comes up to me, and they're like, our child's really, really curious. And so then I usually just try and start a conversation with them. I make it clear to those kids and that, I'm a mum. I'm just like their mum. My bones didn't actually grow as big as your mum's, but I do everything. These are my daughters, and I find that having kids now is actually so much easier to relate to other people because, especially with children. So like, they're my kids, they're 3. She's like you, even though Tilba she's also got dwarfism, and she's generally a lot shorter than other 3-year-olds.
I'm quite interested. Is dwarfism hereditary, or is it in your genes?
Yeah, either or. So 80% of people who are born with dwarfism are actually born from average height parents. So it's more common to have 2 parents of average stature have a short-statured baby. So my kids they both have dwarfism. So they're both they've got 2 different types of dwarfism. Actually, my husband and I both have 2 different types of dwarfism too. To give you a little bit of context and a bit of background on that, so I have achondroplasia, which is not important to remember, but it's the type of dwarfism, and my husband has giliophysic dysplasia. So when we decided to have children, there was 4 different options for us. We could have a child like me, a child like Cullen, a child of average height, which would have been so handy, or we could have had a child that would have inherited both forms of dwarfism, which, if you do carry that baby to full term, is generally, the bub doesn't usually survive too long after birth, because they've essentially been dwarfed twice.
Wow.
That would have added such more complexity to the, when we do have baby, the gender reveal and so on, you would have had another level of curiosity and how your child will turn out.
Curiosity is definitely the word, hey?
Yeah, there was actually like essentially 8 different possibilities.
Wow.
For, there's 4 like genetic variations that could have been passed on, as well as 2 genders. So it was a real, we were waiting for a lot of results there to come in, and it was really exciting. So we had genetic testing, CVS, which is similar to an amniocentesis, done at 11 weeks, and then I had to actually wait till 15 weeks to find out the diagnosis. So it was pretty, when most people are celebrating their pregnancy and letting everybody know, we're still waiting to see whether we can actually continue with this pregnancy, and like everything feels real, you get the sickness, you're starting to get a little bump, you're feeling flooded, not kicks or anything, but just things are happening. But you can't, or you can tell people, but for us, we held those cards pretty close to our chest because we didn't know how we were going to react to that if that news hadn't been positive.
Definitely. And touching more on that, when you announced your pregnancy, your friends, your family, or even your social media following, were they positive, negative, supportive?
Yeah, so this was for Tilba's pregnancy. I wasn't really involved in social media a huge amount, and it certainly wasn't, even going back 4.5 years ago, the change in that has been so drastic these last couple of years, and it wasn't for me quite as a bigger deal. But second time round, all of our friends and family were super supportive and super excited for us, and we were able to explain exactly how the genetic situation works and the testing and all of that sort of thing. So people are hearing the first-hand information from us and they're not assuming anything. When I announced our pregnancy, our second pregnancy, which would end up being Tully, on social media, we were really excited. And we also thought, this is the perfect opportunity to be able to educate and share with everyone, how genetic testing works, how dwarfism works, that sort of thing. And so we actually did that, and we put a lot out there and a lot of sort of emotions and such out there. And there were some really nice responses, and the majority of people were really beautiful and excited for us. But then there was like this different kind of people, the ones that like sit behind the keyboard. And I think anybody who's got a presence on social media has probably experienced trolling and online bullying at some point. And that was really my first experience of it in an online platform. And it was, people jumping on and telling us that we shouldn't even be having children, and that we are knowingly, passing on a genetic deformity to our child. And we should adopt, or we should just choose, to be happy with just ourselves and not pass that on to anybody else. And it was really, really confronting, and it put a lot of self-doubt, I suppose, into ourselves. Just we knew that we were cut out to be parents, and we knew that we were good parents.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
We knew exactly, what the reality of the situation is. We had one baby that's just like me, one that's just like my husband, and we're seriously happy, and there's no way we would change being on this earth or giving anybody else the opportunity for that.
I can't imagine having dwarfism would affect too much in your daily life as far as limiting. Like, I mean, is there anything that it stops you doing? I can't imagine it would.
I don't believe there'd be anything with you, Charli. You are a pocket rocker, a go-getter, and a true inspiration.
I mean,
but
maybe
good question.
reaching the glass out of the top cupboard, but I mean, those sort of things are easily solved.
That's it. Hey, if we're talking big ticket items here, there's nothing that it stops us from. And it was really, if anything, I guess the lesson or the message that we got out of that was that we need to be here. We contemplated shutting down our socials or not putting our kids on social media. And I still have days where I wonder whether that's something that we should have done or should choose to do.
Yeah.
But the bottom line was that, no, we need to be here, and we're lucky because we do have a really strong headspace, and we know our self-worth, and we can tune back into our positive self-talk when these moments happen, because we need to be here and share this message and show that we're capable and that we're able, and that, hey, you guys could have a child with dwarfism. Anybody could have a child with dwarfism, and that is not a reason for anyone to doubt that child's ability or their own ability to parent that child.
Sorry to say this, but you said you're lucky to have a strong headspace. You're not lucky. You've worked on that. I'm sure there was times in your upbringing, in your childhood, where you didn't speak to yourself kindly. You did doubt yourself. You did let the bullies get to you. So you're not lucky. You have trained yourself and worked on your self-worth and your self-love. And it's so awesome to see that, because you're pretty much saying and living and being an inspiration to everyone that it does not matter how short, how tall, what color your skin is, where you come from, your culture, any differences. It doesn't matter. You can be happy, you are capable, and you can achieve anything you want to be. And you are living that. That's amazing.
Thanks, Ashy. And it's exactly right. I grew up as a teenager, and we live in a world that values aesthetics over the soul, and it values looking good over feeling good. And there's an army of people out there trying to change that. You guys, people that, strong social media influencers and such, we're out there trying to change that, but it's still there and it's still present. So growing up, I had this mindset that I could never achieve or be truly happy because I wasn't tall. I had tall as one of my goals, just to have like beautiful long slender legs and to be able to stand in a crowd and not have anybody's eye drawn towards me. So there was this huge shift that happened in my life of self-acceptance. And I went to in my family, there's 3 of us in my family of 4 that have dwarfism. My dad's average height, my mum and brother and I are all short statured. But we still never talked about dwarfism. And there was this mentality that if we don't draw attention to it, then it won't affect our ability to fit in. And once I realized that being different doesn't mean that you can't fit in, and I realized that I should embrace and be excited about my difference because it's unique and it's what makes me special and it doesn't actually stop me from doing anything, then that's when that shift really started to change.
So tell us about some of the achievements that you've had. I mean, I can see without knowing you that you have a bit of fire in you and you have some drive and a deep drive and determination. But tell us how that has served you.
Yeah. So, the flip side of that, there's always so many, there's challenges and then there's so many exciting things that have come from that. So 2011, I went to a convention for short-statured people in Australia, and it's basically just a week-long event that you can connect with and build support groups, and there's a lot of medical information that's shared and such, and it's just an opportunity to have a really great time. And then from that, I learned about the World Dwarf Games. So the World Dwarf Games are held every 4 years, very, very similar format to the Olympic Games, and they're purely to provide the opportunity for short-statured people to compete against each other in a really professional format. So I jumped on board and I got into this, and it was another mindset shift because my whole life I was like I don't know if you remember it, your school carnivals and everything. The teachers would say, everyone who has a go gets 1 point for their house kind of thing. So I had that belief that I was just a 1-pointer. Whereas when I had to shift that and change that mindset from, Charli, you're not just having a go and you're not just giving it your best shot. You need to find like a competitive spirit and a really, not a vicious attitude, but like an attitude of like a dogged attitude, I suppose. And you can win this. And it took a lot of work. And I worked with a mindset coach in the lead up to that event because I couldn't do it on my own. And that for me was an important thing to be able to recognize that there are moments and you're not expected to be able to shift things by yourself all the time. There's people out there that can help you do that. And so, shifted that, went to the World Dwarf Games. I brought home a gold medal in our women's 4x100 meter track relay. We smashed the world record. And then I also won a bronze medal in singles badminton. So, and my goals, I visualized. Yeah, thank you. I visualized myself going. I wanted to bring back a medal in badminton. I wanted a PB in track. And it was sort of that power of self-talk and that power of visualization combined. It was epic. It was the best experience.
That's incredible. I'd love to ask a different question. We are parents. We have a little boy, as you know, he's nearly 4. Kids are really curious, and I love that you use that word curious. How would you say to parents that have curious children, what advice would you give them when their kid is tugging at them saying, Mum, she's really little, or Mummy, what's happening over there? And they are curious. What advice would you give to us as parents and parents listening to approach that? We don't want to shut it down and be like, shush, don't stare, don't look, don't worry about it. We want to educate and for everyone to talk about differences, but how do we go about that?
100%. And I think this is such an important conversation because, we are as parents raising the next generation of curious little minds, and we don't want to shut down curiosity because curiosity is what grows imagination and amazing ideas. But at the same time, we want to be conscious of people's feelings and there's struggles and such, I suppose. For me personally, the biggest thing that I guess no, it doesn't not upsets me, or maybe upsets me, but I feel really disappointed is when the mum grabs that child and pulls them away and has a private little conversation about them, and then they kind of disappear because they're embarrassed, and it's a natural instinct and it's a natural reaction. But for me, like, I usually chase them down. I'm like, hey, I can see your little boy or your little girl has some questions. I am happy to talk to them. And usually you see mum just, oh, thank you, because they didn't know how to deal with it. But if you don't have that opportunity, and not everybody, like, I can't speak on behalf of every single person with different saying that, come up to me and talk to me and ask me questions, because there's some people that do still struggle with their own self-image and their own confidence, and they might, it's a tricky one. It's a bit of a luck of the draw, I suppose. But when people come up to me, or if I approach somebody, then yeah, it's really about, like, let's explore that conversation and talk to them, this, like, inspire that curiosity to say, look, it's okay that people are different. And again, touching back on that whole, my bones are smaller. I didn't grow as tall as your mum, but I drive a car, and here's my wallet, here's my phone, here's my keys, and they're like, adult, she's an adult. And then I think moving forward, it just allows that child to then be curious and confident in asking questions, and not feel like when they see somebody different, they need to avoid that and be scared of it, which I think is, by shutting down that conversation, is what can actually happen. Is that's when we get to an older stage in our life, and we don't accept differences, or we struggle with them because we've kind of been removed from them. I hope all that made sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. And I think kids are super curious, and sometimes I do get stuck. I'm like, oh, how do I explain? Like, even Taj the other day, he was like, Mummy, that person's got orange hair. Why is it orange? And you're like, well, everyone has different hair color. It's not that big a deal. And we need to have those conversations, but I just wanted to ask you because I think it's really helpful. So that did really help.
What are some of the things that are benefits of being having dwarfism? There must be some things that work in your favor. It could be some funny things, some quirky things.
100%. Look, the good things, right? Like, I can generally fit into a lot of kids' clothes.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
So,
there we go.
Yeah. And that, like, for my mum, for example, that sucked because there weren't the ranges of clothes that we have now.
True.
I can go to Bardo Kids. I'll take those benefits. So yeah, I can buy shoes for cheaper. Like, a pair of Nikes cost me like $80. On the flip side, I buy a pair of jeans. Like, I've got lady hips. Like, they're not 8-year-old hips. I've had a couple of kids. So I don't fit into kids' jeans, for example. So I have to buy like women's jeans, which is fine. And then I take them to the alterationists, or I do it myself, and I cut half of them off. And I'm just crying on the inside. So I'm like, I've paid so much money for these jeans and I can't use them. Or like, you have a spray tan and it's still the $45. But I'm like, dude, you only needed half the amount of tan.
Yes. And what would be some of the negatives that you would face?
Any challenges?
Yeah,
I suppose.
challenges.
Yeah, look, it's funny. It's things that people don't always think of. Like, I can't just jump into anybody's car and drive it. My car has extension pedals fitted to it, so I can only drive my car. And it's little things. I'm like, I'd love to test drive that car. We're sort of looking for a new car at the moment. Be like, I can't drive any of them. I have to bring my dad. I'm like, can you come and test drive this car for us? Or Cullen can also drive them. There's days like I'll get to the supermarket, and don't get me wrong, I don't always have days. Like, there's certainly moments where I get the shits with being small. I'll go to the supermarket and they've suddenly rearranged the shelves, and the yogurt that I always buy every single week has been moved to the top shelf.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, thanks guys.
Like, so now I either need to climb or I need to ask somebody, whereas previously I just came in here, I was an independent woman and I bought my yogurt.
That would annoy me for sure.
Or there'll be days where kids will be curious and I'm like, I don't have it in me to explain it today. I've just had a fight. I've just been trying to wrangle my children off the playground. Got to walk over here. One of them's had a nappy explosion. I don't want to talk to you and your kids. I'm sorry. Just leave me alone. But yeah, the majority of it is 100% positive.
Every single podcast, obviously, Alice, our podcast is called Lessons. We need to ask, what is your biggest life lesson to date?
Love it. Okay. So for me, it is like, I really do believe that self-talk is our most powerful tool. Like, we can be supported by a really good network and a really strong network of people, but they're not always going to be there, and they're not always going to be on and able to give the way we might need them to sometimes. So for me, the biggest lesson of my life is about being able to reprogram my own self-talk to make sure that it's always there and supportive of me. And that if we can reprogram that to be that beautiful, positive voice in our head telling us that we are enough, and that it's okay to feel vulnerable or to have moments of weakness, but to be able to talk ourselves back into being strong again, then that's our most powerful tool. And that's where we can really unlid our full potential and, break through the things that are capping us. Like, I get up in the morning and I tell myself each day, whether it's a conscious thing, I stand in front of the mirror and actually look at myself and say something, or I just go about my morning drinking my coffee and, telling myself like, I did well settling the kids last night, or, I'm organized this morning. You've done a great job, that kind of thing. Like, I woke up this morning and there were two thoughts that were running through my head. One is, you've got a podcast with Ashy and Steve today. Like, you're so nervous, you are way out of your league. And what if it's boring? And then that voice got shut down really quickly. I was like, Charli, you've got a podcast with Ashy and Steve today. Like, how awesome is that? You've got something important to say, and people want to hear it. Like, it's all about, and it's okay to be nervous, because being nervous means that you care.
Yeah.
So it's all about, like, you can have the same conversation with yourself, but in two different ways. And if we're surrounding ourselves in our life, in our social media, in our thoughts with positivity and strong words to ourselves, speak to yourself the way you'd speak to your child, then we can only bloom from there and bring everybody else up with us. So that's definitely been my lesson. It's an ongoing process. It's a constant work, but it serves me more than anything else.
You would say the biggest power in that is to catch those negative thoughts, isn't it? Because we all do it. We all have those periods, but the ability to catch it is, because otherwise you sit there and fester in those negative thoughts, don't you?
And what you focus on grows.
And what you focus on feel as well. Yeah, that's a really good lesson.
And you really are, from the sounds of that, wrap it up, you really are your own best friend.
Definitely. I say to Cullen all the time, like, I love you, particularly if we're having an issue, or if, we've reached a point of conflict of something, like, I love you and I love my kids, but I also love me. And without that self-love, which generates from positive self-talk and putting yourself in that good headspace, then you can, you'll never find complete happiness. I don't feel. So I'm definitely my own best friend.
I love that. It's beautiful, and something that I wish all men and women could feel. I do have one more question. It's kind of related into what you've just spoken about, but obviously having two little girls with dwarfism are going to face, the same challenges that you might have faced with people staring, people not, saying things that are not necessarily respectful or not understanding. What advice are you going to give them to go through life dealing with that the best way they can, and to try to help them not avoid pain, because we all need pain to help us learn and grow, but knowing what you've been through, I suppose, how are you going to help them through life's challenges?
Honestly, the best thing I feel like I can do for them is be that role model. And I feel like, when they're still young at the moment, but the more they see me having conversations with people about it, particularly children and parents and such, it just normalizes the whole thing for them, but also makes them realize that it's actually special and we should talk about it. It was quite growing up. It wasn't always a spoken about thing in my family. And if that situation had arisen where people were pointing at us or laughing or whatever, we'd kind of flee from it, just because it was, I guess, a confidence thing, and just didn't know how to handle it. And we'd blow it off as they're rude rather than they're curious. So yeah, for me, it's teaching our children that people are going to ask you questions, that they're going to talk to you, because you do actually look different, and different is beautiful, and different doesn't mean that you can't achieve everything that you want to achieve. And just by, shoulders back, head up, let's walk through life confidently and with a smile and with happiness and just, I guess gratitude as well. Just remind ourselves of all the awesome reasons that we are so lucky. And I think that, being that role model for them is the absolute best way I can teach them and serve them.
100%. Children, they really do. They're like sponges. Hey, they what they witness is what they follow and learn and take on and become. So you are an amazing role model, and your 2 little girls are so friggin' lucky to have you as a mum.
Thank you. I'm extremely lucky to have them as well. They were such a catalyst for me in changing the way I viewed myself and, the person that I wanted to be, because I only want to be the best possible version of myself for them. And it was an awesome transition, and they're so much a part of that.
Oh, that's beautiful. We are going to wrap it up. We've run out of time, but oh my gosh, Charli, thank you so much for being here today. It was such an awesome conversation. And like I said at the start, you're a true inspiration. From the moment I met you, even following you on social media, you truly do inspire me and so many other people to just be a better person, live in more gratitude, and be happy. Be happy no matter what your situation, no matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like. Just find that happiness every single day. Hey, it's really, really beautiful. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Happiness is 110% a choice. And thank you both so much for having me. It's been beautiful. It's been an awesome conversation. I've enjoyed it. And it's a pleasure to be able to do this kind of thing with you both.
Thank you. We'll put all of your details to where everyone can follow along and come and say hi to you on social media, because that's how we met.
Definitely. Yeah. Come and check us out for sure. Thank you.
Bye.
You too as well. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Lessons Podcast. And remember, we'd love to hear from you. So please jump on over to our Lessons Podcast Insta page to tell us what you think. Don't forget to join us on the Lessons Podcast next week for another inspiring guest and fantastic life lesson. If you think you've got a lesson to share, we'd love to hear from you. Hit the link in the description box to get in touch. Bye.